To me, it doesn't sound like you have a lead problem. It sounds like you just need some really good systems around follow. So lately I've had, and when I say lately, I mean in the past like 3 days, even some over the weekend, I've had a lot of conversations around lead follow-up and how crucial it is to your business. We definitely had a conversation in team meetings and coaching groups yesterday around these things as well. But it all kind of like came to a head yesterday evening. I had a call with a potential coaching client. I don't know him very well. He's not on any of our calls, so nobody here knows him. So he reached out and he said, "Hey, someone told me that you do coaching. I need to find more leads. I've been doing about 5 to 6 million a year. I really need to increase my business. I just need more leads." And I said, "Okay, cool. Well, let's talk about that a little bit more," and started asking him some questions. Where do his current leads coming from? Because he's doing a good chunk of business right now. He does open houses regularly. He said anywhere from 2 to 4 a week, depending on the week. He does Zillow leads. He has Boomtown. He gets Boomtown leads. Um, he calls FSBOs. He calls expired. So he's doing a lot of things to get leads, like all the things, all the right things, right, that we talk about all the time to bring in more leads. And I said, "Oh man, it sounds like you're doing these things really, really well. Tell me about your follow-up systems." And he's like, "Oh, I follow up with every single lead, every single person that comes across my desk. I follow up with every single one of them." I said, "That's awesome. That's the first step. We've got to at least reach out to all of them. What does that follow-up system look like?" And he said, "Well, I mean, I call them, and if they don't answer, I mark them off the list. I'm done." I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, let's start there, because to me it doesn't sound like you have a lead problem. It sounds like you just need some really good systems around follow-up, to make sure that you are to just make sure that you're connecting with people." And he said, "No," he said, "I'm a busy guy. People know who I am. They come to me if they're coming into an open house. They come to me if they register online. And if they're too busy to take my call, those aren't the people I need to talk to." I was like, "Okay, well," said, let's take it a step back. I said, whenever you're on showings, do you answer phone calls? If you're sitting in a closing, do you take calls? If you're in a meeting, a doctor's appointment, are there ever any times that you don't take calls and you either have to call back to the person, or maybe answer the next time they call?" He's like, "Yeah, all the time." And I said, "Well, that tends to be, whenever leads are coming in, it's just people with lives and families and jobs and just things going on. So we have to understand that sometimes it takes a while. It averages on online leads say that you have to follow up anywhere from 8 to 10 times just before you make that first connection." And he said, "No, no, I need people that are ready to go, ready to move fast. They should know who I am if I'm calling." And I said, "Okay, let's back it up a little bit more." We went into each of the different areas of lead gen, and I said, "Let's just talk about like maybe specific ways that you follow up with people." And he said, "No, I told you, I don't have a follow-up problem. I just need more leads. I need you to teach me how to get better leads. I need the leads for the people that are going to answer the phone." And I had just read through again, something that someone had sent me, and a quote out of this said that if you are not willing to follow up a good follow-up system with every lead that comes across, then you need to get out of real estate. And he said, "Just shoot it to me straight. Tell me what I need to do to boost my business." And I said, "Okay." I said, "You want me to shoot it to you straight?" So if you're not willing to follow up, not just once, but for online leads, 8 to 10 times for the first conversation, and then a lot of follow up after that. If it's your database and your past clients, which he says his past clients, they worked with me and all my transactions are awesome. So I know that they'll send me referrals. I'm like, "Well, are you asking?" No. Um, I said, if you're not willing to follow up with your database and your past clients 33 to 36 times a year, you're not going to get those referrals or that repeat business. If you're not following up with your FSBOs multiple times for several weeks at a time, you're not going to get that listing." And he looks at me and goes, "This was a waste of time," and hung up on me. And I was like, "Wow, okay." So I sat there with it for a minute and I was like, that is very interesting. So I gave it a little bit of time. And about 30 minutes later, I sent him a text and I said, "Hey, I just want to follow up with you really quick. I know you're frustrated with your business. I know things aren't really where where you want to be and that you want to grow. If you want to have another conversation around how I really do think some of these things could be the thing that pushes you over the edge." And he said, "Give me a minute to calm down. Let's talk again next week." And I said, "Oh, I'm so glad that I followed up with you." And he just sent me back a laughing emoji. Um, but I was like, man, how crazy is it that we all, and there have all been, we've all had those times when it's like, man, we just need more leads. I just need more. I just need more. I don't have enough. But Dan Beer or Kyle Whistle, one of them, asked on a mastermind call one time. He said, "Everybody that's on this call, if you need more leads in your business, raise your hand." We're all real estate agents. Of course, every single one of us raises our hand. We want more leads. And he said, "Okay, so now how many of you would look at all of your follow-up systems and say, and rate it a 10 out of a 10, you are following up to the max. You're following all the systems, you've got really good systems implemented." Nobody raised their hands saying that they had 10 for 10 follow-up systems implemented. He said, "Okay, it's not a lead problem, it's a follow-up problem. You've got all the leads you need. It's going to just make the problem worse if you just add a whole lot more people, because then you're still not following up with everyone. You still don't have time. You're throwing away all this money on leads, whether it's Zillow or on whatever it is that you're doing, but you're not following up with them. So you're literally wasting money. And if you're not willing to do it, then go find another job." And it's thinking back over the conversation, I was like, man, I felt like I was a little harsh, but he told me to shoot him straight, and I did. And then I followed up with him. So, but it's just how many, every single one of us on here could probably say, "Oh, I'd love more leads." But then how many of us could say, "I've got a 10 for 10 follow-up system"? So what do your systems look like right now? I want this to be a very interactive, let's all learn from each other. Um, what is your main source of leads right now? And what does your follow-up system look like around that?
So first of all, you're like savage. I don't know that many of us on this call would have actually texted back to follow up. That was awesome.
Well, it might have been there might have been a little pettiness out of that, because I literally was like, just wanted to follow up with you.
Yeah, yeah.
And so maybe not as much savage, as maybe a little bit petty, but I just wanted to make a point. Like, we got to follow up with people. So,
Right. Yeah, right. No, I think that's awesome. And I think that I hear this all the time too, right? Most agents are struggling with their follow-up and their systems. And I personally use KV Core. I'm transitioning over to Follow-Up Boss, but auto plans are everything. We all live in such a fast-paced world right now that if you don't have the reminders to follow up with people, you're gonna forget. And when you call people and they don't answer, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. You have to keep calling. We all get busy. How many people on this call have had a text that they read and then forgot to respond? And
every
then,
day.
yes. And then maybe like, I mean, sometimes it's a day, sometimes it's a week later. You're like, oh my gosh, that's, like, I'm so sorry I wasn't ignoring you. And I think that's just the world that we live in, that probably I would venture to say, 90% of the people live in this world that they just don't have the tools they need to keep organized in this tech-based world that we live in. So having those auto plans set up to remind us to follow up with people, even when they don't answer, you call them again, and having those tools. Some of the best agents that I have mentored, or not, that I've been a mentee, that have mentored me, um, the systems and tools they use don't feel comfortable at first. The scripts, the processes, right? Because it almost feels like it's too much. But realistically, the best agents are calling someone, and if they don't answer, they're not leaving a voicemail. They're hanging up and calling right back again, and
Mhm.
then leaving a voicemail, and then sending a text saying, "Hey, I left you a voicemail. Give me a call when you get a chance." So they're doing a multiple touch approach that feels a little bit aggressive and uncomfortable to us, but that's how they're successful in the business. If people are really looking to buy or sell, and they're really looking for an agent, that might be the key to attracting those people to you because they want someone that's aggressive, that's going to work hard for them. And if you are annoyingly persistent, that might be exactly what they're looking for, and kind of setting the bar for what a good agent should be.
Yeah. What do you think the reason is that people don't follow up?
Fear, fear and disorganization.
Yeah.
Either they're disorganized and they just forget about it because they don't have a system in place to help them remember, or fear, they're afraid to pick up the phone and call someone. I have an agent that I've been working with to help her grow her business, and she is just insistent that she has a good social media following, and she's gained a lot of her business through social media, and that's all she wants to use. But she can't break past that $3 or $4 million mark. And I said, you have to pick up the phone. You have
Yeah.
to pick up the phone and have actual conversations with people. You can't just expect them to come to you. And I think there are so many agents that think that all they need to do is put their name out there and say, hey, I'm an agent, and that all
Mhm.
their friends and family are going to come flock to them and want to use them. And it just doesn't happen that way.
Yeah. I think there's also, we are very much a microwave society. We expect instant gratification and we want those results right now. And that's not the way this business works. This business is relationship based, and you're not going to have that instant trust. It takes what, 3 hours of face to face time for someone to really start to build trust in you. You're not going to get that at one phone call. You're not going to get that just one text message. Hey, thanks for registering on my website. You've got to pick up the phone, like Michelle said, and put in the work and set the appointment and get in front of them. And if they don't answer the first 1, 2, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, you keep on calling them. One of my best clients to date was in my CRM for 5 years before he ever did anything. It was actually, well, he was in our CRM. It was a lead that was transferred to me. I personally had him under mine for 2 years. He'd been in the whole system for 5. And I still continuously followed up with him. Finally, he called one day. He's like, Audrey, what's up? It's Tony. Come sell my house. I'm like, Tony, who is this guy? And I was like, oh, he's the guy that I've been reaching out to for years. And now he's done, I don't even know how many transactions with me. So look at Matt raising his hand.
Am I allowed to just shoot straight? You asked a great
Please
question earlier.
do.
What
Yeah.
I was just jumping off of my Wi-Fi, heading to my appointment here, and you asked a question. Why do we not follow up, or why do people not follow up? And again, I'm just sharing with you some of my personal journal entries. This isn't aimed at anyone else. It's ego. The conversation that you had with the other agent is just ego,
Yeah.
insecurity, worrying about looking good, being right, not really feeling like you have value. Um, why we don't call is we don't, again, if you really believed that you had true value and that you were here to help everyone that reached out to you, you would call without hesitation. There would be zero hesitation. Any moment of hesitation to actually reach out to help somebody, it is just understand that any hesitation, any
It's that good that we were all left speechless.
I think we lost you, Matt.
You probably hit a dead zone.
I think I'm back. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I
you're
pull
back.
up. I pull up next to a place that has Wi-Fi that I have a history with, and now I'm not close enough. I had to turn off my Wi-Fi here. What did you guys? I was on a roll. I was just having a really great conversation with myself here for a minute. What did you guys get? What? Ramil's laughing. Thanks, dude.
Definitely ego. And that is like, that's why we don't want to be wrong. We
Yeah,
want to
so
have,
let me rephrase it again, so it's not so jagged and isn't leaving anybody with a weird feeling about it. When I was in training to be a national coach and go around the country presenting some incredible content, the leader of that program had a real frank conversation with us up front, and she said, if at any moment you're sitting there hesitating to share with somebody what they need to hear versus anything else, any kind of resistance, any moment of pause, you're instantly going into ego. You're more worried about how you sound, how you look, and whether or not they're going to like you versus really looking to help somebody. So the moment that a number comes up on your follow-up system, the moment you've got a list of people and you're about to reach out, and if for whatever reason you get that feeling, that pause right before pressing that number, you're slipping into ego. You're making it about you, and it's no longer about them. If you truly care about people, if you really believe that you bring value, if you are absolutely the economist of choice and the number one project manager for all things real estate related, then you should be dying to reach out to anyone who's connected, who's given you their name and phone number to find out whether or not you can help and support them. And anytime that you resist, anytime you go to the next number or ignore it or whatever, you are making it about you and your feelings, and that's it. So don't be a snowflake. Call your people.
Yes. Call them. Pick up the phone. Have a system around it. Don't just call them one time and forget about it. Keep on calling. Something else that Matt talks about a lot is how whenever we get bored, right? And we get bored with the follow-up and, oh, I don't want to call them again. I don't want to send that handwritten note. I don't want to do these things because it's just boring. The boring is where you win. Like getting really comfortable with the boring, that's what any really successful business person, they're all going to say, you have to get just really comfortable with the mundane and just doing these same things over and over and over and over and over until you win. And that includes your follow-up. Picking up the phone, putting all the having a system around each of the things, and you don't stop until they tell you that, listen, take me off of your list. You don't want to get fined. I don't know what the new rules are yet, but you don't want to get fined if they ask you to be removed. But until they tell you, no, leave me alone, you don't stop following up with them. You keep on going until someone just absolutely says, just stop calling me.
How many, and I guess maybe drop something in the chat. How many of you guys have a consistent schedule where you do prospecting or follow up at a regular time every day? Like, give me a thumbs up if you do it and a thumbs down if you don't. It's hard. And I think you, like you said there, Audra, it's just that consistency and that boredom that makes us want to go chase after the new and fancy thing. And when you're in charge of your own schedule, I think it makes it even more difficult to build in the time for the boring things. If you've ever had a job like a corporate job where you have tasks you have to do, you do the boring things because you're measured against that. But when you're measuring yourself, when you are your own boss, I think it becomes really difficult to get boring and do the boring things. I'd rather go have coffee dates with other agents. I'd rather go to agent tours. I'd rather go to lunch. I'd rather do the fun, like for me, being creative with marketing and social media. That's a lot of fun. And I'd much rather do that than pick up the phone and have conversations and be hung up on and, talk to people that I don't know. But you've got to do the boring. You've got to do the boring and the uncomfortable to be successful in this business.
Yep. One of the things when he was talking about his database and past clients, y'all all know I'm a big database person. He said, man, they know what I do. That my database, my friends and family, they know what I do. I don't need to say anything. Or my past clients, it was very ego driven, like Matt said. They had a great experience with me. I don't need to keep on reaching out to the people. And I shared with him a statistic that, 85% of agents or of buyers, sellers say that they'll use the same agent the next time they need an agent, but only 12% actually do. And it's because of that follow-up. And he literally said, well, I make sure my transactions are good enough that they're not going to go anywhere else. They have a great experience. I said, well, I'm sure that's what those 80 something percent people say, that, man, we had a great experience. Of course, we'll use them again. But then when it comes down to it, the people that they use are the people that followed up with them. And you've got to get really good at it. Otherwise, what are you doing? Like if you're not following up with people, if you're not following up with every lead that comes in and embracing the systems and embracing the boring everyday tasks, looking the exact same way, then why are you doing this? Like that sounds harsh, but why? Like I would say ask yourself that question. If you're not willing to do those things, why are you doing this?
Yeah. And And I know we had Megan and Ramil both responded that you guys have prospecting in your schedule or every single day. Would either of you guys mind jumping in and maybe talking about what you do and why you feel that's important?
Well, I just start. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I just started and I left the 8 to 5 job where I had the tasks I had to do every single day. And so that's just kind of where my mind has been the entire time I've ever, been in the workforce. So and I'm a task girl, I'm a list girl, and so it's easier if I put it on my schedule to do because it keeps me focused, it keeps me kind of goal oriented. I get so much satisfaction of checking off a box, like marking something off my list. I feel accomplished. And even if it's something small, if it's just, a birthday text or whatever the case may be, but I put it on my schedule every single day. And if for some reason I can't get to it at 11 o'clock when I normally plan on it, I don't check it off. It's like, oh, 11 o'clock's passed. I may do it at 7 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock at night or whatever the case may be. I still keep it on my list. And I just kind of, reach out. And it's not always about the business. It's like checking up, like, hey, how's your mom? Or like this morning, one of our friends in a group that I'm in, her daughter was sent to the ER by ambulance. And so I checked in with her. It's just things like that, just keeping in front of their face. And it's not that I'm using checking on her daughter being in an ambulance to my benefit. I truly do mean it. You know what I mean? And so I think just keeping those connections, because if you check in on people, if you wish them a happy birthday or anniversary, or, hey, I saw that you were going through something on Facebook, just want to let you know I'm praying for you. It's still just keeping those relationships because people are going to go to someone that they're comfortable with.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's
Did
awesome.
that answer the question?
Yeah. No, I think
Okay.
Matt says all the time, real estate is a relationship game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's so true. Like you have to build those relationships. And when you genuinely care about people and you build those genuine and authentic relationships, the business just seems to show up.
Right.
Yep. That's when it gets super fun, when you have put in the time because you have done all the follow up. And it does feel like sometimes, oh my gosh, this business just fell in my lap. It didn't really. I mean, you've been putting in months or years of work, but when that stuff just kind of starts popping up because of all that follow up, it gets really fun. Like my favorite text messages are the ones that I get like, hey, here's my friend so and so. She needs to sell her house, told her I'd connect her with you. I'm like, oh, I love that so much. That wouldn't happen if I wasn't following up and building that relationship, like Megan said. That wouldn't happen if I wasn't really consistent with those people. But it sure is sweet when it happens.
Like the best compliment someone can give you, isn't it? A referral.
Yeah. But if I'm not asking for it, if I'm not working for it, I'm not going to get it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
How many of you are thinking like, oh shoot, I need to look at my follow-up systems and make some changes? Or just make some systems. Thank you for your honesty. Thanks, Mom. And Alan. Well, those are conversations we can have in here too. Like, man, we have Freestyle Fridays, right? When we can break down anything that y'all want to talk about, or we can plan a separate time. Like we can dive deeper into those conversations. Like we reach out to someone. If you need that extra help, if you don't have those systems, you've got coaches right here in this group that are very happy and very willing to work with you and help implement those things. And sometimes we just need a different perspective. We look at the same thing all the time and we don't see the answer because it is just us looking at the same thing all the time. We need those fresh eyes. So reach out to someone, ask for help, get coaching, get the things that you need to implement those systems and set up next year on a really good path. So it's time, y'all. I was fired up about that this morning. Sorry, that call yesterday. Whew. I've never gotten hung up on quite like that. So y'all have an amazing Wednesday and reach out if we can do anything to help.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.